You know what haunts me most about getting older? It's not the aches or the forgotten names. It's the empty chairs at the kitchen table. The second coffee cup you still pull from the cupboard each morning, even though no one's coming. I heard Margaret Thompson's story from a nurse at Legacy Emanuel, and it stopped me cold. Here was a woman who ordered 3 cups of coffee every morning at the same Portland diner, one for herself, one left untouched, and one that somehow always ended up paid for but never claimed. The waitress thought she was losing her mind. But Margaret was sharper than any of us realized. She was just carrying a secret behind her left ear. A lump the size of a chickpea that would either kill her or save the only relationship that mattered. This is about what we don't say when we're terrified of becoming someone else's burden. The third coffee cup had been moved again. Margaret Thompson stared at it from her corner booth at Ruby's Diner, the Thursday morning rain streaming down the window beside her. 7:43 a.m. Same booth for 4 years. Same order, 3 black coffees. Wheat toast, scrambled eggs that she'd push around the plate. But that third cup, someone had shifted it 2 inches closer while she'd been watching the rain. "You okay there, Mrs. Thompson?" Kelly appeared with the coffee pot, her scrub still damp from the sprint from her car. The young nurse stopped here every morning before her shift at Legacy Emanuel, same hospital where Margaret had worked for 40 years, same pediatric ward where Margaret now volunteered, pretending retirement wasn't slowly killing her. "It's Ms. Thompson," Margaret corrected automatically, though her husband Robert had been gone 8 years now. Her fingers found the spot behind her left ear, probing the lump that had appeared 6 months ago. Still there, growing. Kelly's eyes followed the movement. "That bothering you again?" "It's nothing. You should get it checked." "I said it's nothing." The third coffee cup sat there, accusingly. Margaret hadn't ordered it, not consciously. But every morning for 8 months, 3 cups appeared. She'd drink one. The second would go cold, a ghost of Robert's morning ritual. The third one was always paid for on her bill, but never touched. "Tommy asked about you yesterday," Kelly said, still hovering with the coffee pot. "Made it to 900 paper cranes. Kid's determined to hit 1,000 before his next treatment." Margaret's hand dropped from behind her ear. "Tommy Chin, 6 years old. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia, room 3A. She knew every child in that ward, their counts, their chances. Tommy's weren't good. "What's he wish for?" Margaret asked, though in her 40 years of nursing she'd learned not to ask about last wishes. "Won't say, but he folds those cranes like his life depends on it." Kelly topped off the first cup, hesitated at the second, skipped it like always. Then she moved to the third cup. "Don't," Margaret said sharply. Kelly froze. "It's been sitting here for—" "I said, don't." The younger woman backed away, confusion flickering across her face. Margaret couldn't explain it how she knew someone had been drinking from that third cup. Never when she was watching. But the lipstick marks that weren't hers? The way the handle was turned, just so. The way Sarah used to turn it when she was 13 and trying to be grown up. Drinking coffee she didn't even like just to sit with her mother before school. Sarah, Dr. Sarah Chen now. Possibly in Seattle. Possibly anywhere. 5 years of silence because Margaret had said the unforgivable, "I don't need another doctor telling me how to live." Except she'd meant, "Don't leave me too." The lump behind her ear throbbed. Not pain, exactly awareness. Like it was listening. Margaret's phone buzzed. Unknown number, Portland area code. "Miss Thompson, this is Dr. Williams. I need you to come in today. It's about your recent labs." "I haven't had any recent labs." Silence. Then, "The ones from Tuesday, when you came in for— when Kelly brought you in." Margaret's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Tuesday. She remembered Tuesday. Volunteering in pediatry. Tommy showing her crane number 897. Then, nothing. A blank where 3 hours should be. "Miss Thompson, are you there?" She looked at the third coffee cup. A single drop of coffee on the rim, fresh, as if someone had just taken a sip. "What kind of tumor is it?" she asked quietly. Another pause. How did we should discuss this in person? Glomus jugulare. She knew the symptoms. The way sounds seemed muffled in her left ear. The dizzy spell she'd hidden for months. "How big? Please, come in." Margaret ended the call. Her hands weren't shaking. 40 years of delivering bad news had taught her that bodies betrayed you in the quiet moments. Not the crisis ones. She stood to leave, then noticed it, a paper crane, impossibly small, tucked beside the third coffee cup. The number 901 written in careful child's print on one wing, but Tommy had only made 900. "Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story." The hospital parking garage swallowed sound. Margaret's Honda Accord ticked and cooled in space before. Her fingers found the paper crane in her pocket, number 901, its edges already soft from handling. The paper smelled wrong, not like the hospital origami sheets Tommy used, like lavender. Elevator doors opened on the third floor. Oncology. The hallway stretched ahead, waxed linoleum, reflecting the fluorescent buzz overhead. Her left heel scraped with each step. When had that started? Dr. Williams' office door stood ajar. She knocked. "Come." Williams sat behind his desk. 2 folders open, one thick, her employment records from 4 decades, one thin new. The computer screen angled away, but she caught the reflection in his glasses. Brain scan. White mass behind the left temporal bone. "Sit." He gestured to the chair. The leather wheezed under her weight. "How long have you known?" Williams asked. 6 months. Margaret touched the spot behind her ear. The lump rolled under her fingertip like a marble in oil. "Maybe 7. Jesus." "Margaret, you were a nurse? You know what this could—" "Glomus jugulare, slow growing, benign in 60% of cases." Her voice stayed flat, clinical. "Tinnitus started in January, vertigo in March. The facial numbness is new." Williams pulled up the scan, turned the monitor toward her. The tumor glowed white against gray matter. Bigger than she'd estimated, much bigger. "Surgery? Tomorrow if we can get you scheduled." "No, this isn't negotiable. You had a seizure, Margaret. Kelly found you in the supply closet. You don't remember because—" "Tuesday." The word fell out. "I lost Tuesday." Williams nodded. 3 hours. You were conscious, but not there. Kelly said you kept asking for someone named Sarah." The crane in her pocket cut into her palm. She was squeezing it. "There's something else." Williams pulled a second scan. Different angle. "See this shadowing here, along the cochlear nerve." Margaret leaned forward. The shadow looked like fingers reaching toward her brain stem. "Someone marked this scan," Williams said quietly. "Made notations, professional annotations. They knew exactly what they were looking at." He paused. "The computer logs show the access came from Seattle, from the University of Washington Medical Center, Neurosurgery Department." The lavender smell suddenly made sense. Sarah's hand lotion, the same brand for 15 years. "She's been in my medical records." "Margaret." Williams' voice dropped. "She's been in more than that." Margaret's kitchen table held 3 items: her advance directive, a surgery consent form, and the paper crane numbered 901. The consent form's signature line blazed white under the pendant light. 10:17 p.m. Surgery scheduled for 7 a.m. tomorrow. Her pen hovered. The tremor in her right hand made the tip dance. Behind her ear, the tumor pulsed with her heartbeat. She could hear it now, a whisper of blood through compressed vessels. The tinnitus had become her constant companion. A high wire singing in her left ear, she signed. The pen rolled off the table. When she bent to retrieve it, the vertigo hit. The floor tilted 30 degrees. Her palm slapped against linoleum, caught her weight. The room spun counterclockwise, lazy and nauseating. She stayed there, forehead pressed to the floor, counting breaths until the world settled. Her phone vibrated against the table leg where it had fallen. Kelly's name on the screen? "Miss Thompson, I'm sorry to call so late. I wanted to make sure you have someone for tomorrow. I'm fine. That's not what I asked." Margaret pulled herself back into the chair. Through the window, her neighbor's motion light clicked on. A cat, probably, or wind through the rhododendrons. "I'll see you at 6:30, Kelly said. "I'm not scheduled, but I'll be there." "You don't need to." "Room 314 tomorrow. Tommy's getting his counts done. He wanted me to tell you he's at 920 cranes now." Kelly paused. "He says the last 80 are the hardest." The line went dead. Margaret stood, tested her balance. Steady enough. She walked through her house, checking windows, adjusting the thermostat. In the bathroom, she laid out fresh towels for when she came home. If she came home, the mirror showed her neck, the slight swelling below her left ear now visible. She'd hidden it for months under scarves, high collars. The tumor had grown patient and quiet, like Sarah's silence. Her bedroom closet held a box marked Taxes 20D, keyed insurance papers, Robert's death certificate, and an envelope addressed in Sarah's handwriting, postmarked 3 years ago, never opened. Margaret held it to the light. A card, maybe, or a letter. The paper felt thin, worn at the edges from her handling it. She put it back unopened, 4:43 a.m. Margaret hadn't slept. She showered, dried her hair, chose clothes that would be easy for the nursed button-front shirt, loose pants, no jewelry except her wedding ring, which she moved to her right hand. The drive to Legacy Emanuel took 12 minutes. The street's empty, except for delivery trucks and people heading to early shifts. She parked in B47 again, a note tucked under her windshield wiper. Reserved. But the hospital didn't reserve visitor spots. The surgical floor smelled like betadine and floor wax. The waiting room, it held 2 other people, a man sleeping across 3 chairs, and a woman knitting something yellow. Baby blanket, from the size. Thompson. A nurse with tired eyes and fresh scrubs. Margaret nodded, followed her to pre-op. The gown gaped in back. The nurse, Rodriguez. Her badge said, started an IV with practice deficiency. Any family coming? No. Rodriguez's hand paused on the IV tape. The surgical consent shows an emergency contact. Sarah Chin. Margaret's chest tightened. I didn't write that. It's in the system. Rodriguez turned the computer screen. There it was. Sarah's name. Seattle number. Updated yesterday at 4 p. I was home yesterday at 4. Rodriguez checked the notes. Says here, the update was made from a terminal in pediatrics. Must be an error. The anesthesiologist arrived, young enough to be Margaret's grandson. He ran through the risks, bleeding, infection, nerve damage, stroke, death. Margaret signed another form. The IV dripped cold into her veins. They wheeled her down the hallway. Ceiling tiles blurred past, 54 tiles from pre-op to OR3. She'd counted this route hundreds of times from the other side of the gurney. The OR blazed white. Machines beeped their baseline rhythms. Dr. Martinez stood at the sink, visible through the window, scrubbing with the methodical precision she remembered from her own OR days. The circulating nurse adjusted the overhead light. Count backward from 10, the anesthesiologist said. The mask settled over her face. Rubber and plastic and something sweet. 10, the light above fractured into stars. 9, someone was holding her hand. Latex gloves, but underneath, familiar. 8, the hand squeezed 3 times. Their old code, Sarah's code from when she was 7, scared of the dark. 3 squeezes meant 7. The surgical drape blocked her view, but she could hear Martinez entering, could hear him saying something about the approach, about the facial nerve. About 6, the hand was gone. 5, or was it still there? 4, the tinnitus in her left ear changed pitch, lower, like a voice. 3, like someone humming. 2, lavender, definitely lavender. 1, the darkness took her, but not before she heard it, clear as her own heartbeat in the monitors. "I'm here, Mom. I've been here all along." Time fractured, darkness and light in fragments, voices floating. Extensive than the imaging showed. Facial nerve intact. She's stable. Margaret surfaced in recovery, throat raw from intubation, the left side of her head wrapped in gauze and tape. The tinnitus was gone. Perfect silence in her left ear. She tried to speak. Only a croak emerged. "Don't try to talk yet." Kelly materialized beside her, still in street clothes. Surgery went perfectly. 4 hours, but they got it all. Margaret's fingers found Kelly's wrist, squeezed once. A question. "She was here," Kelly whispered, "in the observation room the whole time." Margaret's eyes moved to the chair in the corner, empty, but the air still held that lavender scent. And on the seat, barely visible, sat paper crane number 999. The surgical dressing behind her ear was warm, not infection warm, something else, like a hand had just been resting there. Kelly helped her sit up, adjusted the bed. "Tommy wants to know if you'll be better by Saturday." Margaret raised an eyebrow. The right one still worked. "He says crane number 1000 has to be special. Says he needs you there when he makes it." The room door stood slightly open. Through the gap, Margaret could see the hallway. Someone in a white coat stood at the nurse's station, back turned, looking at a chart, dark hair pulled back. Familiar stance, weight on the left foot, right hip cocked slightly. The figure began to turn. Kelly moved, blocking Margaret's view. When she shifted again, the hallway was empty. "The pathology report," Kelly said quickly. Too quickly. To Martinez sent it to someone for a second opinion, someone who specializes in glomus tumors. Margaret knew before Kelly said it. The report went to Seattle, to Dr. Sarah Chen. The pathology report trembled in Sarah's hand. Not Sarah's hand, Dr. Chen's hand. Margaret could see the distinction in the way she held the papers, the professional distance measured in the angle of her wrist. "Ms. Thompson." Sarah stood in the doorway, 3 feet from the bed, exactly 3 feet. "The tumor was benign, glomus jugulare, as you suspected. We achieved clear margins." We, as if Sarah had been in that OR, not watching from behind glass. Margaret's throat still burned from the breathing tube. She reached for the water cup. Her fingers missed by an inch, depth perception off from the surgery, or maybe the morphine. Sarah stepped forward, stopped herself, stepped back. They both watched Margaret's hand fail a second time. "The insurance has been handled," Sarah said to the wall behind Margaret's head. "Prior authorization for the extended recovery. Home health if you need it. I don't need—" "I know." Silence. The IV pump clicked every 3 seconds. Margaret counted 12 clicks before Sarah moved to the window, looked out at the parking garage. "Your car's been moved to long-term parking. The keys with security." "How did you—" "I should go. Sarah was already at the door. "Dr. Martinez will check on you this afternoon." She left. The lavender scent lingered for 17 breaths. Day 2. 3 p.m. exactly. Margaret had been watching the clock since lunch. Pureed something that might have been chicken. Sarah entered carrying 2 coffee cups. She set one on the bedside table, kept the other, then froze. Looked at the 2 cups. Her face went blank, that careful, nothing expression Margaret recognized from when Sarah was 15 and Robert was dying. "Old habit," Sarah said. "Keep it there." As Sarah sat in the visitor chair, still 3 feet away, they drank their coffee in silence. Margaret's tasted like hospital coffee, always did, burnt and bitter. Sarah left after 15 minutes exactly. Day 3, 3:02 p.m. Sarah was late. She entered slightly breathless, like she'd been running. "Sorry. Tommy's counts came back. We had to adjust his protocol." "Tommy." Margaret pushed herself up. The incision pulled. A sharp line of heat behind her ear. "He's your patient. For 8 months now." Sarah set down her coffee, just 1 cup today. "He's been asking about you made it to 940 cranes. He told me 900. He lies about the count. Doesn't want people to worry when he has bad days and can't fold any." Margaret watched Sarah's face, the tiny muscle at her jaw that jumped when she was holding something back. "What's his real prognosis?" 6 months. Maybe 8 with the new protocol. "Does he know he's sick?" "He knows he's sick. He knows the cranes are important." Sarah's fingers found the edge of her white coat, worried the hem. "He thinks if he makes enough, someone will get better." "Not himself." Sarah finally met her eyes. "He never said himself." The room felt smaller. Sarah's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. "That's your emergency tone," Margaret said. Sarah looked at the phone. Her face changed. Tommy's having a reaction. I have to go." She was gone before Margaret could respond. Day 4, 2:58 p.m. Sarah entered with a wheelchair. "Martinez cleared you for walks." Margaret's legs shook when she stood. Sarah's hand caught her elbow, steadied her. First touch since the surgery. Sarah's fingers were cold through the hospital gown. They walked the ward slowly. Margaret's left foot dragged slightly. Post-surgical. She told herself, not permanent. At the nurse's station. Rodriguez waved. In the patient lounge, an elderly man worked on a crossword puzzle. 5-letter word for stubborn, he called out as they passed. "Mules?" Margaret said. "Doesn't fit." Sarah steered the wheelchair past. Under her breath, "Try Margaret." Margaret's laugh surprised them both. Short, rusty from disuse. They made 3 loops. Sarah helped her back into bed, adjusted the pillows, her hands efficient, impersonal, but she stayed for 30 minutes. Day 5. Margaret was dressed in real-clothes sweatpants and a button-up shirt Kelly had brought from her house. Sarah entered at 3 p.m. exactly, carrying discharge papers. "Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. You'll need someone to drive you home. I'll call a cab." "You need someone to stay with you for 48 hours. A post-surgical protocol." "I'll be fine." Sarah set down the papers harder than necessary. "Why do you do this, Gush?" "Do what? You act like needing help is weakness. Like accepting care is—" Sarah stopped, composed herself. "I've arranged for home health. Cancel it." "Mother, don't." Margaret's voice cracked. "You don't get to call me that, not after 5 years of nothing." Sarah's professional mask finally slipped. "You told me to leave. You said you didn't need another doctor in your life trying to control you." "I needed my daughter, not another doctor telling me what was best for me. I am a doctor. That doesn't stop because you're my mother." "Doesn't it? Because you've been Dr. Chen for 5 days? 15-minute visits? Professional distance? Coffee at 3 p.m. like I'm just another patient?" "You want morphine?" Sarah stepped closer. "Move to Seattle. I have a guest room. I have colleagues who can manage your follow-up care. I can control everything, monitor everything, manage me like I'm a problem to solve. That's exactly what you're doing. Just like 5 years ago when Dad died, you had a plan for my grief, a timeline for my recovery, therapy sessions scheduled, support groups selected, my whole life reorganized for optimal healing outcomes. Sarah's face flushed. I was trying to help. You were trying to fix me, because that's what you do. You fix things. You solve problems. You can't just let people be broken for a while. You weren't broken. You were giving up. I was grieving. For 3 years, you stopped leaving the house, stopped seeing friends, stopped needing you to manage my life. They stared at each other across 3 feet of linoleum. Sarah's phone buzzed. The emergency tone again. Go, Margaret said. Tommy needs you. This isn't over. It's been over for 5 years. Sarah left. The door didn't slam. Hospital doors couldn't slam, but the soft pneumatic hiss felt worse somehow. Final. Margaret's hands shook as she reached for the water cup. This time she grasped it, brought it to her lips. The water tasted like plastic and self-pity. She pressed the call button. Rodriguez appeared. You okay, hon? I need the chaplain. Is everything all right? I need to update my advance directive. Remove someone as my health care proxy. Rodriguez's face carefully didn't react. I'll page him. Alone, Margaret touched the dressing behind her ear. The incision throbbed in time with her pulse. She could hear her heartbeat in the silence where the tinnitus used to be. It sounded like footsteps walking away. Her phone vibrated. A text from Kelly. Tommy's asking for you. Says it's important. Room 3-4. Margaret stood, her legs held. She walked to the door, looked down the hallway toward pediatrics. 43 steps to the ward. She'd counted them dozens of times. She made it 37 steps before she saw them. Sarah stood outside room 3, her back to the hallway. Her shoulders shook. She was crying, silent, body-racking sobs she was trying to muffle with her hand. Through the door's window, Margaret could see Tommy in bed, surrounded by paper cranes. They covered every surface, windowsill, bedside table, IV pole. But something was wrong with the count. There should be 940 or 960 by now. Margaret counted quickly. 20 cranes, maybe 30. The rest were gone. Sarah's phone lay on the floor where she'd dropped it. The screen still showed Tommy's latest test results. Margaret didn't need to read them to know what they said. The way Sarah stood, the way her hands pressed against the wall for support, the way the nurses were avoiding this section of hallway. Tommy was dying. Not in 6 months, not in 8. Today, maybe tomorrow. And all his cranes were gone except for the ones he could see from his bed. Margaret's knees hit the floor beside Sarah. The impact sent white heat through her surgical site. Sarah's body went rigid, hands scrubbing at her face, trying to erase the evidence. Don't! Margaret caught Sarah's wrists. Don't pretend. Sarah's breathing came in short gasps. Her pulse hammered under Margaret's fingers. 110, maybe 120. The tears had left salt trails on her cheeks. Through the door window, Tommy lay still, too still. The monitor showed his heart rate at 52, his respiratory rate at 8. The IV pumped morphine at a steady drip. How long? Margaret asked. Since this morning, his liver. Sarah's voice broke. The metastases. They weren't there last week. Margaret stood, pulled Sarah up with her. We need to go in. I can't. You're his doctor. I'm not. Sarah's hand found the wall again. I'm his aunt. The hallway tilted. Margaret's hand joined Sarah's on the wall, both of them holding themselves upright. Your brother had a son, Michael. He died 4 years ago. Car accident. Tommy's mother. Sarah swallowed. She left when Tommy was diagnosed. Couldn't handle it. Margaret's mind rearranged 8 months of assumptions. Tommy Chen, Sarah Chen. The shared last name she'd never connected. You've been in Portland to Portland 8 months. Since his diagnosis. I transferred my license, got privileges at OHSU, found a sublet in Laurelhurst. Sarah's laugh came out wrong, bitter. 3 blocks from your quilting friend Rose. The door to 310 opened. Kelly stepped out, saw them both, stopped. He's asking for his crane, lady. She looked at Margaret. And his Aunt Sarah. Sarah shook her head. Tell him, I've been telling him for 8 months that his aunt's at work, that she'll visit when she can. Yet Kelly's voice stayed level, but her eyes were hard. I'm done lying. She left them in the hallway. Margaret pushed open the door. Tommy's eyes tracked to her. Slow from the morphine. His skin had the waxy sheen she knew too well. But he smiled. Mrs. Thompson, you're walking. Ms. Thompson, she corrected gently, settling into the chair beside his bed. And yes, I'm walking. Where are your cranes? His voice barely made it above a whisper. Margaret looked at the 30 cranes surrounding him. Paper birds in white and blue and yellow. One made from a coffee shop napkin, another from prescription paper. Where are the rest? Tommy, his eyes moved to the window. Gone. Flew away. That's not possible. 970 cranes flew away last night, only kept the special ones. His hand moved slightly, pointing to one made from lavender paper. That's crane 712, Aunt Sarah's birthday. Margaret's throat closed. Sarah stood frozen in the doorway. And that one? Tommy pointed to a crane made from a hospital menu. Number 401, the day you started having coffee at Ruby's. How did you know about? Aunt Sarah told me every morning she'd watch you drink your coffee, 3 cups. She said you were waiting for someone. Margaret looked at Sarah. 8 months. Sarah nodded, still in the doorway. Come here, Tommy said to Sarah, not asking, commanding with the authority of a dying child. Sarah's legs moved like they belonged to someone else. She made it to the bed, sat on the edge. Tommy's hand found hers. I need crane 1000, he said. We can make it together. Margaret offered. No, it's already made. Tommy looked at Sarah. In your pocket, the yellow one. And Sarah's hand went to her coat pocket. She pulled out a crane, butter yellow, the size of a quarter. I made it last month, Tommy whispered, when I could still fold good. Been saving it. Sarah unfolded it with shaking fingers. Inside in Tommy's uneven printing, I wish Aunt Sarah and Mrs. Thompson would be family. Margaret's vision blurred. She blinked hard, focused on the monitor, 50 beats per minute, 7 breaths. Miss Thompson, she corrected automatically, then laughed at the absurdity. Here was this child, dying, and she was correcting his grammar. Tommy smiled. You said that the first day. At Ruby's, Aunt Sarah was in the booth behind you. She spilled her coffee when you said it. You were there. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Aunt Sarah brought me before chemo. His eyes were closing. You never saw us, but we saw you. Margaret remembered. The booth behind hers. Sometimes occupied, sometimes not. The sound of a child's voice she'd attributed to other families. The lavender scent she'd noticed, but never placed. The 3rd coffee cup, Margaret said. Sarah nodded. I'd order it, never drink it. Just wanted you to know someone was there. 8 months of watching me drink coffee alone. 8 months of making sure you weren't alone. Sarah's thumb stroked Tommy's hand, even if you didn't know it. Tommy's breathing slowed, 6 respirations per minute. The crane, he whispered. 1,000. Margaret understood. Not 970 gone. 970 hidden, saved, folded into days Sarah had watched her, Mornings Tommy had spent 3 booths away, moments of connection Margaret hadn't known existed. "Where are they?" Margaret asked Sarah. "Your house, your garden shed." Kelly gave me the spare key you gave her for emergencies." Sarah's voice dropped. "I'd check on you, make sure you had groceries, that your medications were filled, that the house was secure. You broke into my house. I took care of you, the only way you'd let me." Margaret wanted to be angry. The violation of privacy, the deception, the sheer presumption of it. But Tommy's hand was so small in Sarah's, his breathing so shallow. "The surgery," Margaret said. "You were there, in the OR. Observation deck. Martinez is a friend. He let me watch." Sarah's eyes stayed on Tommy. "I had to know you were safe. And the papers, the healthcare proxy. I couldn't stand the thought of you being alone if—" Sarah stopped. "I'm sorry. I'll sign whatever you need. Remove myself." Tommy's eyes opened, focused with effort. "No," he said. "Clear, firm, family." The monitor showed 48 beats, 5 breaths. "Mrs. Thompson." Tommy's voice was fading. "Miss Thompson." She corrected one last time, then took his other hand. "But you can call me Margaret." "Margaret." He tested the name, smiled. "Will you take care of Aunt Sarah?" Margaret looked at Sarah, her daughter, who'd spent 8 months watching her from 3 feet away, who'd hidden 970 paper cranes in her shed, who'd held her hand during surgery while she counted backward from 10. "Yes," Margaret said. Tommy closed his eyes. "Good. The cranes worked then." 4 breaths per minute. The nurse entered, checked the monitors, left quietly. "Mom!" Sarah's voice broke on the word. Margaret squeezed Tommy's hand once, then reached across his small body and took Sarah's. "I'm here." 3 breaths per minute. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "For the last 5 years, for trying to control everything, for you've been here 8 months, watching me, protecting me." Margaret's thumb found Sarah's pulse point, still racing. "That's not control, that's love." 2 breaths. "Tommy knew," Sarah said. "He knew about us before I told him. Said he could tell by the way I looked when I talked about you. Smart kid. Gets it from his father's side." 1 breath. Tommy's hand relaxed. The monitor's rhythm changed. Sarah's fingers tightened on Margaret's. "Don't let go," Sarah whispered. "Never again." They sat there, hands linked over Tommy's still form, until the nurse came with the paperwork. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Portland. The light turned everything golden, even the paper cranes. Margaret counted them again. 30 in the room, 970 in her shed. 1,000 wishes for a family reconnected. But there, on the windowsill, sat one more. Crane number 1001, made from prescription paper. The date on it was today. Margaret looked closer. The handwriting wasn't Tommy's. It was Sarah's. The funeral home smelled like lilies and furniture polish. Margaret's black dress pulled at the incision behind her ear. 7 days post-surgery. 5 days since Tommy stopped breathing. Sarah stood at the casket, her hand on the closed lid. Incid tusk. Tommy wore his favorite dinosaur shirt, the one with the hole in the left sleeve he wouldn't let anyone patch. "He hated flowers," Sarah said. Margaret placed the box beside the casket. 900 paper cranes collected from her shed that morning. Her fingers still ached from gathering them. Some had been tucked behind paint cans, others nestled in old flower pots, a few hidden inside Robert's old toolbox. "When did you put them there?" "Tuesdays and Thursdays. After Tommy's treatment, he'd sleep in the car while I—" Sarah's hand left the casket. "Kelly would text me when you were at the hospital volunteering." Kelly was in on this. Kelly saw you that first day at Ruby's. Recognized me. I begged her not to tell you. The funeral director appeared in the doorway. 15 minutes until the service. Margaret touched the prescription paper crane in her pocket, number 1001, the one Sarah had made. What does yours say? Sarah pulled out the crane, unfolded it. Her handwriting, dated the day of Tommy's death. I wish I could stop running from the people who love me. Margaret's knees locked. She gripped the edge of a chair. You made it before he died. During his last treatment, 3 days ago. He told me to write what I really wanted, not what I thought I should want. And you want to stop running. From you? From Portland? From... Sarah gestured at the empty chapel. Michael should be here. My brother should be burying his son, not me. But you're here. I'm all Tommy had. No. Margaret took the crane from Sarah's hand, refolded it along its worn creases. You're all he needed. People began arriving, nurses from the hospital. Kelly in dark scrubs, coming straight from shift. Rose from quilting circle, followed by Betty and Diane. De Martinez, even the waitress from Ruby's diner. They sat scattered through the chapel, spaces between them like missing teeth. Margaret counted 17 people, 17 witnesses to a 6-year-old's life. The service lasted 23 minutes. The pastor hadn't known Tommy, read from generic notes about angels in heaven. Sarah's eulogies consisted of 3 sentences. Tommy believed in wishes. He made 1,000 of them. They all came true. At the cemetery, the small casket looked wrong against the earth, too small, like a mistake in proportion. Sarah threw the first handful of dirt. It landed hollow on the wood. Margaret added the cranes. Not all of them, some scattered in the wind, yellow and white and blue birds lifting over headstones. One caught in a pine tree. Another landed on a stranger's grave 4 plots over. He would have liked that, Sarah said. The cranes flying. After, they sat in Margaret's Accord in the cemetery parking lot. The heater struggled against December cold. Sarah's breath fogged the passenger window. I have something, Sarah said. She pulled out an envelope, thick with pages, from the last 3 years. Margaret recognized her own address in Sarah's handwriting. You wrote to me. Every week, never sent them. Sarah set the envelope on the dashboard. They're all there. 156 letters. Why now? Because Tommy's gone. Because I spent 8 months watching you through diner windows. Because Sarah's voice caught. Because I can't do this anymore. The distance, the pretending, the 3 feet apart careful dance we've been doing. Margaret opened the envelope. The first letter was dated 3 years ago. Mom, I drove by the house today. Your roses need deadheading. The second, Mom, I saw your light on at 3 a.m. Are you sleeping? The 10th, Mom, I passed my neurosurgery boards. I wanted to call you first. The 40th, Mom, I dream about your coffee, the way you make it too strong. The 90th, Mom, I met someone. Her name is Linda. You'd like her. The last, dated a week ago. Mom, Tommy's dying and I can't do this alone. Margaret's hands shook. The letters scattered across her lap. Linda, she asked. We broke up 6 months ago. She couldn't handle me disappearing to Portland every week to spy on me, to make sure you were alive. And Sarah's finger traced patterns in the window fog. Do you remember what Dad said before the end? Margaret's throat tightened. He said to take care of each other. We failed. No, you've been taking care of me for 8 months. In secret, in silence. Margaret gathered the letters, ordered them by date. That's not failure. That's pathological. Devoted. Sarah laughed. bitter and short. I hid paper cranes in your shed. You protected me during surgery. I lied to you. You loved me, even when I pushed you away. They sat in silence. The heater clicked off. The windows fogged completely, sealing them in. "Come home with me," Margaret said. "I have a flight tonight, back to Seattle." "Cancel it. I have patience." "You have a mother who just realized her daughter's been living 3 blocks away for 8 months. Margaret turned to face Sarah fully. The movement pulled at her incision. "Please." Sarah's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, frowned. "It's Kelly. She says it's urgent, about Tommy's things." "What things?" Sarah called Kelly. Put it on speaker. "You need to come back to the hospital." Kelly said, "Both of you? Now? Why?" Security found something in Tommy's room, hidden behind the radiator. Kelly paused. "It's addressed to both of you, and it's significant." Margaret started the car. The cemetery to the hospital, 18 minutes in noon traffic. Neither spoke during the drive. They parked in B47, the same spot, always the same spot now, like a talisman. Kelly met them at the entrance to pediatrics, holding a manila envelope. Security did a sweep before they cleaned the room, found this tape behind the radiator. It's been there for weeks, from the dust pattern. Sarah took the envelope. Her name and Margaret's written in crayon on the front, inside a hospital bracelet, child-sized, but not Tommy's. Margaret read the name. The room tilted. The bracelet was 42 years old. The date of birth matched Sarah's exactly. It was Sarah's infant bracelet from the day she was born, in this hospital, in what was now room 3/4. "How?" Sarah's voice came out strangled. Kelly handed them a second item, a folded paper, worn soft, Tommy's writing, but steadier than his recent attempts. "Aunt Sarah was born in this room. I looked it up. Same bed, same window. She came into the world here. I'm leaving here. But the Cranes stay for the next kid, to make their wishes come true, too." Margaret touched the bracelet. The plastic had yellowed with age. She remembered that day, the snow, the 14-hour labor, Robert pacing, the moment Sarah first cried. "You kept this?" Sarah asked. "In my jewelry box, with your first tooth, your hospital card, a lock of hair." Margaret's fingers found the incision behind her ear. "How did Tommy get it?" "I don't know. I never told him about—" Sarah stopped, stared at the bracelet. "The day I found you in the supply closet. During your seizure, your house key was in your pocket. I went to get you clean clothes. You went through my jewelry box. I was looking for your insurance cards. Tommy was with me. He must have—" Sarah pressed the bracelet between her palms. "He knew. Somehow he knew he'd die in the room where I was born." Kelly shifted. "There's more." She handed them a key, a small brass key with a paper tag. "Locker, 314 in the basement," Kelly said. "Tommy asked me months ago if there was a locker with that number. I thought it was about the room number." Margaret looked at Sarah. "Together." Sarah nodded. The basement smelled like industrial cleaner and old pipes. Locker 3 had sat in the back corner, rust around the edges. The key turned hard inside a box. Cardboard, the size of a shoebox. Sarah lifted it out, heavy for its size. She opened it. 1,001 paper cranes, all identical, all folded from the same paper pages from a medical journal. Sarah's medical journal, the article she'd published about glomus jugulare tumors 3 years ago. At the bottom of the box, a photo. Sarah at 6 years old, Margaret at 41, standing outside this same hospital. Sarah in a hospital gown, just discharged after her appendectomy, both smiling, both unaware that 36 years later they'd stand in this same basement, holding proof that love travels in circles. "He planned this," Margaret said. "All of it." Sarah lifted one crane, unfolded it. The margins of the medical paper were covered in Tommy's writing, tiny letters filling every white space. "Aunt Sarah says love means watching from far away. Sometimes Mrs. Thompson drinks coffee alone but saves cups for ghosts. I think they're both wrong. Love means making paper birds until your fingers cramp. Love means hiding them everywhere so people find them when they're sad. Love means dying in the room where someone you love was born, so the circle connects." Margaret reached for the wall. Her legs weren't working right. Sarah caught her, not from 3 feet away, close. Her arms around Margaret's waist, holding her up. "He knew," Sarah whispered into Margaret's shoulder. "He knew everything. The brain tumor, the surgery, you being here." Margaret's mind raced. "He orchestrated it all. A 6-year-old couldn't—" Sarah stopped, pulled back, stared at Margaret. "The crane at Ruby's, number 901. I only had 900. The lavender paper. I never used lavender paper." They looked at the box of cranes. At the bottom, barely visible, one more item. A USB drive labeled "Play Me." Margaret picked it up. Such a small thing, light as a paper bird. "We should watch it," Sarah said. "Together. Is there any other way?" But when they plugged it into Kelly's computer, the screen showed something impossible. A video of Tommy, clearly recorded weeks ago when he was healthier, sitting in room 3C, but behind him, visible through the window, was Sarah's car in the parking lot. The car she'd bought 3 days ago, after Tommy died. The timestamp on the video showed tomorrow's date. Tommy smiled at the camera and said, "Hi, Mrs. Thompson. Hi, Aunt Sarah. If you're watching this, it means the cranes worked, all 1,001 of them, even the ones that haven't been folded yet." Tommy's face froze on the screen. Kelly's office hummed with fluorescent light. Margaret's finger hovered over the touchpad, unable to click play again. "The timestamp," Sarah said. Her voice came out thin, stretched. "That's tomorrow. The car in the background, you bought it 3 days ago? From Hertz, used. They had the paperwork ready when I walked in, like someone had—" Sarah's hand covered her mouth. "Oh, God." Margaret clicked play. Tommy's image moved. He held up a piece of paper, drew a crane in real time, his small fingers folding, but his movements were wrong, too smooth, like frames missing between each position. "This is edited," Kelly said from behind them. "Deep fake. Has to be." "No." Sarah pointed at Tommy's hands. "Look at the scar on his thumb. From when he tried to help me cook. That's real." Tommy on screen spoke again. "Aunt Sarah, check your pocket. The left one." Sarah's hand moved automatically, pulled out a folded paper, not a crane. A note in Tommy's handwriting, room 3114, now. "He's been dead 5 days, Margaret said. "I know." "This is impossible." "I know." They ran, Kelly behind them, down the hall, up 2 flights. Margaret's incision screamed with each step. Room 3 stood empty, cleaned for the next patient. Bed stripped, windows gleaming. On the pillow a single paper crane. Sarah picked it up. Her hand shook as she unfolded it. Inside, not Tommy's writing, Robert's. Margaret's dead husband's handwriting, clear as the day he died. "Margaret, stop being stubborn. Sarah, stop being proud. You're wasting time." Margaret's knees gave out. She sat hard on the stripped bed. The paper in Sarah's hands was aged, yellowed, decades old. "Dad never met Tommy," Sarah whispered. "No. This paper, It's from his journal, the one he kept during chemo. I burned that journal. After the funeral, I watched it burn. Sarah held the paper to the light, watermark visible, her father's initials in the corner where he always signed his pages. Kelly backed toward the door. I need to. She fled. Margaret touched the crane. Real paper, real age, real ink that smudged under her thumb. Mom? Sarah's voice cracked. There's something else. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to a video, hit play. Security footage from the hospital. Timestamp this morning, 4:40 a.m. The corridor outside room 3 empty. Then a shadow. Then Tommy. Clear as daylight. Walking. Healthy. No Ivy. No Palla. He entered room 310. Stayed 17 seconds. Exited. Walked directly toward the camera. Waved. Disappeared between one frame and the next. Security called me an hour ago, Sarah said. They thought it was a glitch. It is a glitch. Mom, look. Sarah rewound, zoomed in. Tommy's reflection in the window as he passed. Not Tommy's face, Robert's. For a single frame, Margaret's dead husband's face on a 6-year-old body. The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees. Their breath came out in clouds. Mrs. Thompson, a voice said from the doorway. They turned. Tommy stood there, solid, real, wearing the dinosaur shirt they'd buried him in. Tommy. Sarah's voice barely made sound. Sort of. He smiled. Not Tommy's smile. Robert's? Hi. Sweetheart. Margaret's vision grayed at the edges. Sarah caught her before she hit the floor. Dad. Sarah's face was white. How? Doesn't matter how. Listen, 3 months from now, you'll be at Ruby's. 3 cups of coffee, all of them full, all of them drunk. That's when you'll understand. Understand what? That I never left? That Tommy never left, that love doesn't leave. He looked at Margaret. Stop pushing people away, Maggie. Robert, and you. He turned to Sarah. Stop watching from a distance. Life happens up close. The lights flickered. When they steadied, the doorway was empty. Margaret and Sarah sat on the hospital bed, staring at nothing. The crane in Sarah's hand crumbled to dust, real dust, gray and fine. Did that just, yes? Was that really? I don't know. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. A photo of Ruby's diner, taken from inside, looking out. 3 cups of coffee on a familiar table. The timestamp showed 3 months in the future, March 15th, 7:43 a.m. But in the window's reflection, 4 people sat at the table. Margaret, Shruss, someone with their back turned, and Tommy. Adult Tommy. 30 years old, maybe. Smiling. Alive. Mom, Sarah zoomed in on the image. Look at his hand. Tommy's adult hand rested on the table. On his thumb, a scar. The exact scar from when he'd tried to help Sarah cook. Margaret grabbed the phone, zoomed further, behind adult Tommy, barely visible in the reflection, a wall of paper cranes. Thousands of them. And a sign that read, The Tommy Chin Memorial Wing. That's not possible, Margaret said. He died. We buried him. Mom, look at the date again. March 15th, Sarah's birthday. Now, look at adult Tommy's shirt. Margaret squinted. The shirt had writing, small. She enhanced the image until the pixels broke apart. The shirt read, Survived all thanks to 101 wishes. Sarah's phone rang. Unknown caller. Don't answer that, Margaret said. Sarah answered. A child's voice, not Tommy's. Younger. Hi, Aunt Sarah. It's me. You don't know me yet, but you will. In 3 months, at Ruby's, bring Grandma Margaret, and bring the cranes. All of them. Even the ones you haven't found yet. Who is this? Check the garden shed. behind the paint cans, not Grandma's shed. Tommy's, the one nobody knows about. The line went dead. Margaret and Sarah stared at each other. Tommy didn't have a shed, Sarah said. Not that we knew about. Should we? Margaret was already moving. We need Kelly and her car now. They found Kelly in the break room, sitting with her head between her knees. Keys? Margaret said. Kelly handed them over without looking up. I'm not going with you. We're not asking you to. The drive to Margaret's house took 16 minutes. They pulled into the driveway. Margaret's shed stood where it always had, but beside it, previously hidden by overgrown blackberry vines they'd never cleared, another structure, smaller, older, a child's playhouse that couldn't have been there before because Margaret would have noticed in 40 years of living here. The door was child-sized. Sarah had to crawl through. Inside impossible space, bigger than outside, filled floor to ceiling with paper cranes, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, and photographs covering every wall. Photos of Margaret and Sarah through the years, but wrong in some. Tommy stood between them as an adult in others. Robert was there, older, gray-haired, pictures from Christmases that never happened, graduations Tommy never reached. Sarah's wedding to someone Margaret didn't recognize. With Tommy as the best man, in the center of the shed, a table, on it, a medical file. Patient name, Tommy Chen. Diagnosis, all. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Status, in remission. The date on the file was from 24 years in the future. Sarah picked up the file. Under it, another note. This one in Margaret's handwriting. But Margaret's handwriting as an old woman, shakier, aged. We saved him, all of us. Even the ones who weren't born yet. Time isn't a line. It's a spiral. The Cranes know. They've always known. Check the basement of the house. The door you've never seen. It's been there all along. Margaret looked at Sarah. I didn't write this. You will. The basement doesn't have any doors we haven't seen. It does now. They stared at each other in the impossible shed, surrounded by photos of futures that couldn't exist, holding proof of a remission that hadn't happened. Margaret's phone buzzed, a voice message. She played it. Tommy's voice, but older, deeper. The spiral is closing. 3 months. Ruby's Diner, 7:43 a.m. Bring everyone, even the ones who died. Especially the ones who died. The 1001st crane is the key, the one that hasn't been folded yet, the one you're about to make. The message ended. Sarah looked at the medical file in her hands. The pages were blank now, all except one line. Treatment begins in 3 months. Margaret's basement door stuck like always. The wood swollen from 40 years of Portland damp. She shouldered it open. 5 wooden steps down, then concrete. Single bulb on a pull chain, casting shadows that moved wrong. Sarah followed, ducking under the beam where Robert had always hit his head. The basement smelled the same mildew, old cardboard. The ghost of floods past. There! Sarah pointed, a door in the east wall. Fresh paint, bright blue, brass handle that gleamed. It hadn't been there an hour ago, hadn't been there ever. Margaret touched the handle, warm, body temperature. Don't, Sarah said. Margaret turned the handle. The door opened onto another basement, their basement, but different, cleaner. Shelves lined with labeled boxes. Sarah, age 5. Tommy's first Christmas. Robert's 70th birthday. Robert never made 70. Tommy never had a Christmas. Margaret stepped through. The air tasted different, charged, like before a lightning strike. On the shelf nearest the door, a VHS tape. Handwritten label, watch this first. We don't have a VCR, Sarah said, Margaret pointed. In the corner, a TV from 1980s, wood-paneled sides, VCR built in, the kind they'd owned when Sarah was 12, the tape slid in, static. Then their living room, current day, Margaret and Sarah on the couch. But Margaret looked wrong, younger. The surgical scar behind her ear gone. Sarah looked older, gray threading through her hair, on screen. Younger, Margaret spoke. How long do we have? Older. Sarah checked her watch, 17 minutes before the loop resets. And Tommy, safe, for now. But only if they follow the instructions exactly. Younger Margaret looked directly at the camera. At them. You're watching this because the first intervention worked. The tumor, the surgery, the reunion. Phase 1 complete. Real Margaret stepped back. That's not me. It is, Sarah said. Look at your hands. On screen, younger Margaret held up her hands. A scar across the left palm, fresh, still pink. Real Margaret looked at her own left palm. Nothing. Then, as she watched, the skin split in us. No blood, just an opening, neat as a surgical incision, sealing itself into a scar that matched the one on screen exactly. Phase 2 starts now. The recording continued. You have 3 months to prepare. Tommy can only return if the timeline folds correctly. Every crane matters, every single one. Older Sarah on screen pulled out a paper. Here's what you need to know. First, the cranes aren't just paper. They're markers, temporal anchors. Each one represents a choice, a moment where time could have gone differently. Second, younger Margaret continued, Tommy isn't dead, not permanently. He's in between, waiting. The leukemia was never random. It was an attack. Someone wanted him erased from all timelines. Who, real Sarah asked the recording. As if hearing her, older Sarah answered, the same person who separated you two 5 years ago. The one who's been feeding small destructions into your lives. Check your phone, Margaret, the voicemail from 5 years ago, the one you deleted without listening. Margaret pulled out her phone. In her deleted messages, somehow restored a voicemail from 5 years ago, the day of her fight with Sarah. She deleted it in anger. She played it, not Sarah's voice, a man's voice, familiar but wrong. Mrs. Thompson, this is Dr. Mitchell from Seattle General. Your daughter's been in an accident. She's asking for you. Margaret's legs gave out. Sarah caught her. I never got this message. I deleted it before listening. I thought it was Sarah calling to argue more. I was never in an accident, Sarah said. The recording continued. But in another timeline, Sarah was, and Margaret came, and they reconciled, and together they saved Tommy before he got sick. That timeline was erased by the same person who's been erasing all the timelines where your family survives intact. The TV flickered. New image, security footage from the hospital, a man in a white coat, face obscured, entering pediatric oncology. The timestamp 8 months ago, the day Tommy was diagnosed. The man turned toward the camera for one frame. De Martinez, Sarah's colleague, the one who'd performed Margaret's surgery. No, Sarah whispered. He helped us. He let me observe the surgery. On screen, older Sarah nodded as if she'd heard. He needed Margaret alive for this to work. The tumor was never natural. It was induced. Check the pathology report. Really check it. Sarah pulled up the report on her phone, scrolled to the cellular analysis. There, in the margin, almost invisible synthetic markers. Engineered pills. The tumor was made, Sarah said, designed to bring us together. But Martinez didn't know we were estranged. The recording flickered again. Martinez in his office, wall covered with photographs, not medical awards, Pictures of families, hundreds of them, red X's through most, a few circled in green. The Thompson-Chen family photo circled in gold. Under it, written in Martinez's hand, the last viable timeline. Real. Margaret touched the TV screen. It was cold. Ice cold. "We need to find Martinez," she said. Sarah was already calling the hospital. Her face changed as she listened. She lowered the phone. "Martinez died," she said. "Car accident. 3 hours ago." The recording laughed, not their voices. Martinez's voice coming from younger Margaret's mouth. "You can't find a dead man, but I can find you. I've always been able to find you. Check your pocket, Margaret. The right one this time." Margaret's right pocket bulged. She hadn't put anything there. She pulled out a paper crane, fresh, the paper still warm. She unfolded inside Tommy's child handwriting, but the words were wrong, too complex, too knowing. "The 1,001st crane was never mine to make. It was his. Martinez has been folding temp for 17 years, trying to find the timeline where he succeeds, where he takes our place, where he becomes the survivor. Ruby's Diner, March 5th, 7 to 4 a.m. Come alone or don't come at all. One of you dies. You choose which one." The basement door slammed shut. They were in complete darkness. Then, a child's voice in the black. "Hello, Grandma. Hello, Aunt Sarah. I'm the Tommy that survives, and I'm sorry for what happens next." The floor disappeared. Margaret hit water. Cold. Chlorinated. Her lungs seized. The hospital pool, basement level, physical therapy. She surfaced, gasping. Sarah splashed beside her, coughing. "Mom." The pool lights clicked on. They weren't alone. Martinez stood at the pool edge, dry, whole, not dead. 3 hours was all I needed, he said, to file the death certificate, close the loop, make myself invisible. Margaret swam to the edge. Her surgical incision burned from the chlorine. "You're not Martinez." "I've been Martinez for 17 years. Before that, to Collins at Presbyterian. Before that." He shrugged. "Names don't matter, only survival." Sarah hauled herself out. Water streamed from her clothes. "What are you?" "Same as you, human, just older, much older." Martinez pulled out a paper crane, pure black paper. "I've been folding time since before your grandmother was born. Taking small pieces, a year here, a decade there. Borrowing life from families like yours. You gave Tommy leukemia. I gave him a doorway. Same thing, different perspective." Martinez began unfolding the black crane. "Every sick child is a door, every grieving family, a harvest. I take their remaining years. They die young, I live forever." Margaret pulled herself from the pool. Her legs shook. "Tommy's not dead. Dead enough. The space between heartbeats, the pause between breaths, that's where I keep them. Hundreds of children waiting, their years feeding into mine. The cranes are prayers, wishes, temporal anchors, yes, but mostly they're pain made physical, and pain is power." Martinez held up the unfolded paper. Writing covered every inch. Names, dates, children who died over decades. 999 children. Tommy makes 1,000. The 1,001st crane completes the ritual, locks them all in place. Permanent food source. Sarah moved toward him. He stepped back. "March 15th, he said. "Ruby's Diner, 7:43 a.m. Bring the 1,001st crane, or Tommy stays suspended forever, neither dead nor alive. Just fuel." He folded the black paper into something that wasn't quite a crane. Wrong angles. Too many wings. It flew apart into ash that reformed as a door in the air. Martinez stepped through. The door collapsed. Margaret and Sarah stood dripping in the empty pool room. 3 months, Sarah said, to figure out how to fold the 1,001st crane. Mom, we don't even know what paper to use. Margaret's phone buzzed, wet, but somehow still working. A message from her own number, sent 3 months in the future. Check the jewelry box, not the bracelet. Under it. They drove home in silence, Kelly's car heater blasting, trying to dry their clothes. Margaret's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The jewelry box sat on her dresser. Sarah's baby bracelet on top. Under it, a piece of paper Margaret had never seen. Old, older than the house, older than anything should be. She lifted it carefully. The paper felt alive, warm, pulse-like. Writing appeared as she held it. Robert's handwriting. The 1,001st crane isn't folded from paper. It's folded from time itself. Every moment we've lost, every word unsaid, every touch withheld. That's the paper. The crease are the scars. The wish is the weight. Sarah read over her shoulder. That makes no sense. More writing appeared. Tommy's now. It makes perfect sense. You just have to die first. Like I did. Like Robert did. Like you will. Margaret, if you fold it, or Sarah will, if she folds it. 1 life to save 1,000. That's the real price. Margaret set the paper down. It immediately became blank again. We have 3 months to decide who dies. Sarah said, No. Margaret picked up the paper again. New words forming. There's a third option, but it requires something harder than dying. What's harder than dying? The paper showed 2 words before going blank forever. Complete forgiveness. March 15th. Ruby's Diner, 7:42 a.m. Margaret sat in her usual booth, 3 cups of coffee on the table, all full, all steaming. Sarah beside her, not across. Beside, the 3rd cup waited. 7:43 a.m. The door chimed. Martinez entered. But behind him? Impossible. Beautiful. Alive. Tommy, 6 years old, healthy, holding a paper crane, the 1,001st. But the paper wasn't paper. It was light. Pure light folded into crane form. Hi, Grandma, Tommy said. Hi, Aunt Sarah. I brought friends. The door chimed again and again and again. Children entered, dozens, hundreds. All the children Martinez had stolen years from, all healthy, all whole, all holding cranes of light. How? Martinez stumbled backward. Margaret stood. We figured it out. The 1,001st crane isn't about sacrifice. It's about release. Forgiveness doesn't just free the forgiven, but it frees the forgiver. She pulled out her own crane, folded from the blank paper, but with something more. Every photograph of Sarah she'd hidden away, every letter she'd never sent, every moment of the 5 years they'd lost, transformed into something tangible. I forgive you, she said to Martinez, for the tumor, for the manipulation, for Tommy's suffering. Sarah stood. Her crane was different. Medical charts and research papers and 8 months of watching from 3 feet away, transformed. I forgive you, too, for teaching me that love sometimes requires the distance before it can close. Martinez's form flickered. No, that's not possible. Forgiveness doesn't. Tommy stepped forward. It does if it's real, if it costs everything, if it acknowledges the pain but chooses healing anyway. He held out his crane of light to Martinez. I forgive you for killing me, because dying taught me something. Love doesn't end with heartbeats. It just changes form, like paper into cranes, like cranes into wishes, like wishes into truth. Martinez took the crane. The moment his fingers touched it, he began to change, younger, older, cycling through all the faces he'd worn, all the lives he'd stolen. Then, finally, his true face, a child, Maybe 7 years old, scared, alone. I just didn't want to die, he whispered. Nobody does, Margaret said, but everybody does. That's what makes the living precious. The crane in his hand burst into flames, not burning, transforming. The light spread to all the cranes the children held, 1,001 lights in Ruby's diner. Tommy walked to Margaret and Sarah. Solid, real, warm. The loop is closing, he said. In a minute, you'll wake up 3 months ago, the day after my funeral. But this time, different. This time, I'm in remission. Have been for years. This time, you two never fought. This time, Robert lived to 73. That's not our real timeline, Sarah said. No, but it's the one you earned, the one where forgiveness rewrote history. Tommy smiled. The cranes remember everything, even the things that unhappen. The lights grew brighter. Wait, Margaret reached for Tommy. Will you remember? I'll remember the important parts. That love folds time. That families are worth 1,000 wishes. That 3 cups of coffee are better than 1. The light consumed everything. Margaret woke in her bed. Her phone showed December 10th, 5 days after a funeral that never happened. She touched behind her ear, no scar. Her bedroom door opened. Robert entered, carrying coffee. Hair gray but thick, alive at 73. Sarah called, he said. She and Tommy are coming for breakfast. Something about celebrating his 5-year remission anniversary. Margaret took the coffee, tasted it. Too strong, like always. 3 cups, she asked. 4, Robert smiled. Tommy drinks tea now. Says coffee is for old people. Through the window, Margaret could see her garden shed, normal size, no hidden doors. But on the windowsill, catching morning light, sat a single paper crane, number 1,001, folded from a medical report she'd never seen. Tommy's clean bill of health from 5 years ago. The crane's wings moved without wind. When Kelly first told me this story at the nurse's station, I didn't believe her. A mother and daughter who reconnected through paper cranes, a dead child who rewrote time. But then she showed me the security footage from room 3P, the time stamp that couldn't exist. The boy who walked through walls. I work in the same hospital. I've passed that room 1,000 times since. Sometimes, early in the morning, I smell lavender. Once, I found a paper crane on the empty bed, folded from paper that felt warm, alive. I kept it. Here's what haunts me. We all have someone we've pushed away, a parent we stopped calling, a sibling we can't forgive, a friend we let pride destroy. We tell ourselves we have time to fix it, that tomorrow, next month, next year, we'll make that call. But Tommy taught me something through Margaret and Sarah's story. Time isn't linear. It spirals. Every moment we waste in silence creates a future where we're still alone. Every coffee cup we leave empty echoes forward. I called my mother after hearing this. 5 years of silence broken. She answered on the second ring, like she'd been waiting. This story was inspired by true events, but has been fictionalized for entertainment purposes. It does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of harmful behavior or medical negligence. All medical procedures and conditions described should be addressed by qualified healthcare professionals. The characters of Margaret Thompson, DeSarah Chen, Tommy Chen, and Dar Martinez are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real persons, living or deceased, or actual events is purely coincidental. This narrative explores themes of family reconciliation and forgiveness, not medical advice or supernatural phenomena.